Loktarogar. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, everyone's favorite orc warrior, and it's time for another orc mode workout. And today, just kind of casual again, because right now I'm not trying to stress myself out, just trying to maintain strength while I continue to lose body fat. Maintain strength, maintain muscle, that's the name of the game. Keep stress levels low, don't get stressed about training. And in fact, even I went to go set my hook grip today, and my thumbs hurt because I did a bunch of other stuff with my thumbs yesterday after I finished training. Left them sore. It started hurting, so I decided to pull just straight up double overhand for a couple triples today instead, with a lighter weight, just to work on my grip, work on some technique a little bit, and it's all good. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not going to stress it out. I'm going to get stressed. But yeah, I think what I've pretty well settled into is, my two big lifts, doing a heavy single, and then a back off set of 5 every day. And I think that'll be fine. That should be adequate for stimulating some hypertrophy to help me hold on to the size that I have while I keep trimming down. A lot of people are like, well, how low do you think you need to go? Ideally, probably somewhere in the 205 to 210 range. And, given my height, that's still a pretty high body weight for my height, even if I'm pretty lean at that point. But really, it's going to be hard to tell. I mean, it's going to come down to how much lean mass I gain or lose while losing weight as well. That's something that has to be factored in. As a lot of people have pointed out to me, and I am aware of this, sometimes when you're losing body fat, you will lose lean mass that is not muscle. So that's hard to account for because it's hard to tell how much that is. And that's because there's connective tissue through your body fat, right? Your fat isn't just pure fat there. There's connective tissue adhering it to the skin and everything else. And as you lose body fat, you lose that connective tissue also. And over time, depending on how much fat you lose, that could end up being in the pounds. You could end up losing several pounds of connective tissue around your fat as well. So it's going to be interesting for me to kind of see what happens with that. Also, my body's trying to rebound a little bit back and forth with me on water, even though I know for a fact I've maintained a small caloric deficit. I've regained a couple pounds in the last few days, and it's been literally, it was just overnight, like I regained 3 pounds. So I'm hoping that'll be off here soon by the time I get around to getting this scan done, because this last weekend I was 228.8. This morning I was 231.5, and it was just like, seriously? And yesterday was like up to 232, but then it dropped a half a pound off. So hopefully that trend just keeps pushing it back down a little bit, because I definitely want to be back under, I want to be under 230 by the time I step on that DEXA machine. And a lot of that's going to be keeping my stress levels low, because people need to remember a lot of times your swooshes and everything that happen with weight loss, they have to do with your cortisol levels, meaning your body will elevate cortisol levels when calories are going low, carbs get low. It's your stress hormone, and that will make you retain extra water even while you're technically losing tissue weight. And that's part of the process by which your body will put you into homeostasis. And so if you get more stressed out for any reason, even when you are losing body weight, you'll sometimes regain water weight, or it'll make you stall, or it will make you gain water weight, and that has to do with your stress hormones and everything. So there's some myths there. A lot of people have this silly idea that cortisol causes you to gain belly fat, right? That's used to sell products. That's not true. Cortisol can cause water retention, but cortisol itself can break down tissues in the body for energy. Elevated cortisol can actually contribute to actual weight loss, but you've got to remember that it's not always good weight loss, because it can contribute to more muscle mass loss too. So that's what you need to be aware of with it. But the training went okay today. Like I said, I'm not even putting the weights up on here now. People who want to know can just count the plates, and the reason is I'm not focusing on the weight. I'm just focusing on, trying to hit a nice heavy single every day with a nice heavy back off set of 5, and then whatever I'm going to do for my deadlifting, whether I'm going to do hook grip or double overhand, and then my pull-ups and everything. And really, I just do a couple of sets of pull-ups from a dead hang, getting close to failure, till I feel like I'm getting close to failure, like leaving a rep or 2 in the tank. And the reason for that is that I don't want to hit failure when I'm doing them every day. Probably not a good idea from a recovery perspective. I want to get just enough to stimulate some adaptation. So I'm not as worried about it right now. I've got to just let go of this. And again, as long as I'm hitting a nice heavy single and I'm maintaining muscle, I'll maintain strength just fine. within reason. So again, I'm not worried about pushing that bleeding edge, and I have certain ranges I'll try to stay in with weights on the bar, but I'm not going to obsess over them. And again, try not to get stressed out, and that's the main thing, because stress for me, I'm an emotional eater. So if I get too stressed out about certain things, it'll make me want to eat more. And so by managing my stress, it makes it easier to manage my appetite just in general. Makes it easier to manage my appetite. So it's just loading that protein heavy, eating clean, avoiding junk. And yeah, just keeping this training at a nice moderately heavy weight so that we can maintain strength and muscle mass. So again, back off set of 5 here on the close grip bench press. Again, pause because we want to practice technique, because that's going to be the name of the game too. When I finish cutting later on, the technique needs to be dialed in on everything. It's going to give me time to get that hook grip better on my thumbs. It's going to let me hone my technique on all these big lifts. And yeah, I'm just going to focus on a handful of lifts because again, all I need to worry about is maintaining the motor patterns on the important lifts and getting enough stimulation to hold on to my muscle mass and burn a few calories, right? And that doesn't require that many exercises. All these guys, because again, people need to remember this is not bodybuilding. I'm not trying to peak for a bodybuilding show or anything crazy. I'm not trying to get bodybuilder ripped. I might not even be getting what most people consider ripped. I'm not cutting to get shredded, guys. I'm cutting to be at a healthy, competitive body fat and body weight for strength sports and overall health and fitness. That's it. I don't care about being peeled. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think that's healthy. So, it's not about trying to train for that pump that everyone talks about, because people need to understand a lot of that isn't about building muscle. A lot of guys who are doing a lot of that volume pump work when they're getting ready for some bodybuilding show is to train transient storage factors. It's to train their muscles to hold a little more glucose so that when they carb up, they're a little bit fuller. And I don't need to do any of that because that's not what I'm trying to do right now. Again, it's about retaining tissue. It's about retaining muscle tissue, retaining strength, keeping my technique strong, keeping everything healthy. And that's ultimately all that matters. And that can all be done with big movements. And again, I don't have to waste energy and recovery on things that are going to beat up my connective tissue, because that's not what I'm trying to do. So again, keep it simple, keep it basic. And as you guys can see with the deadlifts, I just ended up doing some triples with double overhand with a lightweight, just to work on my grip, just to maintain the movement pattern of the deadlift. Because ultimately today the hook grip I wasn't feeling it today. And again, I'm not going to tear my thumbs up if they're not able to do it on certain days. I'll do it on every day that I'm capable of. And on days otherwise, I'll work with the double overhand. And the beauty of that, here's the beauty of that. That will keep me from overtraining on the deadlift because I'm going to be limited in the weight because I'm only doing stuff that's very grip specific with it. It'll let me maintain the movement pattern of the deadlift. I'm still training the deadlift from a practice perspective. I'm still working my grip and everything else, but I'm not going so heavy that it's going to beat up my recovery. Not going to be an issue while I'm on restricted calories and restricted food intake, which is a big plus because that's one of the biggest problems you run into when you start doing this and people start losing body weight once you're already a somewhat advanced lifter. Burying yourself on the recovery end. And usually what happens when guys start doing that, they just up the dose of their drugs. And then when that quits working, they just up the dose of their drugs again. But if you're not going to go that strategy, you're not going to use a bunch of drugs. You need to be paying attention to those things because when you're bulking and you're in a caloric surplus, your maximum recoverable training volume is a lot higher because the food is anabolic. Food facilitates recovery. And if it facilitates recovery, you can train harder and you can train longer and recover from it faster. Well, when you're in a caloric surplus, of course, that isn't as easy to do. It's just not possible to do. So you have to moderate these things a little better, which is the reason I'm not pushing out grinders. I'm not pushing anything to failure. Everything is just nice and heavy, just enough to get some work done, right? Just enough to get some work done. Without pushing myself to that threshold. There'll be more time for that later when I'm leaner and able to eat more food. All right. And in the meantime, just come in nice, moderately heavy, steady workouts that are just consistent, keeping my stress level low, and just coming in and kind of just enjoying what I'm doing with the lifts. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.